I got it. Here comes Miss Justice, right on time. We do have a quorum and everyone here. Miss Pat, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Wildeboer?
Present.
Miss Mason?
Here.
Miss Justice?
All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for all being here. Today's invocation will be given remotely by Chaplain Georgiana Pinckney. So then we'll have a moment of silence because we will not be gathered on 9/11, and then I guess I'm up for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning. My name is Georgiana Pinckney. I'm a chaplain with Lower Cape Fear Life Care. I am grateful for the ask to pray for the leaders of our community today. Let us pray. Gracious and loving Lord, we thank you for this day, the giver of all things that are good and worthy. We thank you for our many blessings, not just for ourselves, but for our schools and community. We thank you for the abundance of successful outcomes and school events and for the staff of New Hanover County. We ask for the blessing of discernment as we continue to seek wisdom, strength, and courage in all of the planning we do today. Guide our thoughts and deliberations and allow us to make conscientious decisions for the good of those who have confidence in our leadership and put their trust in us. We ask, Lord God, for the insight to lead with integrity, to reflect what is good and right for the community we serve without self-interest, but with fairness and integrity. Lastly, Lord, help us to have compassion in our hearts, and may our actions reflect your values of service and justice. We pray that by working together, we have a united purpose and create a positive learning environment for all. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
If you would please now join me in just a moment of silence for all those that lost their lives on 9/11. Amen. You could face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, Mr. Perry,
That's my.
just running late.
Mr. Perry,
Oh,
remember?
You're here.
I'm here.
I am so sorry.
You're fine, dear.
I bet. In fact, I was thinking about you right now.
And Dr. Barnes is still at the law conference.
Where?
At the law conference?
Law conference.
Oh, that's right.
Yep,
Yes.
I got an email. So, okay. All right. But we have the rest of the team here, so very cool, at least for some of the time. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved?
Is there a second? I'll second that. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Passes 3-0. Next, we have the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion?
I know that
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That passes 3-0. All right, we'll jump in with both feet, and I'm going to look to my left to our Assistant Superintendent to lead us through Policy 4150. Miss Varnum, come on down. Or speak on up.
Okay, so well, I'm looking at the packet. Page 20.
Barnes rule.
Right, I'm taking over.
Telling us the pages we're going to.
So then on page 25, I think is the additional suggested language. Is that the one that we want to discuss first? Okay. Because the language on page 20 has been discussed a few times, and I think this is the new suggestion, page 25. The section around the student assignment plan shall detail the procedures for how the lottery assignment process will work. And I'll just refresh your memory. The student assignment plan is the student assignment and enrollment handbook that has been shared a couple times in our links, but this is what it looks like. Let's see. All lotteries will provide an equal chance for students to be selected. No weighted preferences shall be made. And then the additional language added is, however, in the case of year-round or magnet schools, students must apply for admission to the nearest year-round or magnet school to their domicile that provides an equivalent school calendar and educational environment.
Isn't that already in?
So I can explain what the student assignment plan already does have.
That's already in there. So-
Well, it is for the year-round. So the 2 year-round schools, Eaton and Coddington, there is an attendance zone that splits the county in half, and it's Market Street South is for Coddington applicants, and Market Street North is for Eaton applicants. And then that is run, as of the change to have no weighted lottery, this coming year, it will be run without weights, and it will be equal opportunity, but based on those 2 geographic zones. So that is the case there. However, the magnet schools, for example, Freeman and Snipes, they are not split geographically, and students can apply to attend Freeman from any place in the county, and they can apply to attend Snipes from any place in the county. And so that's how that works right now. And so I wasn't sure about this suggested change and whether that is something that would benefit student assignment.
And just what you were saying before about the busing, if a child lived at Carolina Beach and wanted to go to Gregory, would we provide a bus for that?
So Gregory, let me double check on that. If they lived in Carolina Beach and they wanted to go to Freeman, yes. If they lived in Carolina Beach and got approved for Coddington, then yes. If they wanted to go to Snipes, yes. Let me double check on Gregory. Yep, I'll come back to that.
Okay.
I'll come back to that. Thank you. So I think the question for me is the one about magnet schools in that.
But what you're saying is anywhere in the county for the magnet schools.
Right.
That magnet schools we're discussing.
Right.
Ms. Farnham, how many magnet schools do we have? Just for everybody to know.
So we don't call them magnet schools, which is why the language,
what I figured.
I need to sort of pull this out and define. So specialty schools, so we have year-rounds, we have 2, and then specialty schools are listed as Rachel Freeman, International School at Gregory, and then Snipes. And then those are the ones that are listed as specialty schools. And then, of course, we have signature programs within our high schools, and then otherwise, our high school specialty schools, which are our cooperative innovative high schools.
And just because I know we've had this conversation before, I'm sorry. Can I?
Ms. Mason?
Sorry. There's a different requirement when it comes to delineating magnet schools, correct? There's like certain requirements that we have to abide by. Can you
Right.
just kind of say what those are for the public to hear?
That's not in my area. The specialty program schools and whether we would meet the definition for a magnet is not in my area, and I'm not sure if we're ready to answer that question. The definition of magnet schools.
There's requirements to participate in the magnet, and
To be called a magnet school.
To be labeled as a magnet school, there's certain requirements, correct? And I'm just curious, and I'm so sorry. As we were talking, I didn't even think about, that question, but just to kind of give because we don't have magnet schools, and sort of put it in policy, we shouldn't put magnet in there. But
Right.
just so the public knows why we don't have them, there's something different about them, and just making sure.
It's kind of like magnet's a brand name, and we're using generic terms because the brand name would have additional requirements. Okay, so our 3 are specialty program schools for elementary are Rachel Freeman, Gregory, and Snipes. Transportation is provided for those 3.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay.
there's the
You
answer.
know.
All right.
Now you know.
So I would not suggest that we use the term magnet school, but that we would use year-round in specialty schools, use the same language that is provided in our student enrollment and assignment handbook. And again, the year-round is delineated by geographic area, but our other specialty schools are not. And I think that we would end up limiting our applicants if we did that.
Plus the wording, you just discovered the wording isn't proper.
Right, right.
Yeah, I'm not even sure why this is.
I guess the big thing I think that he's trying, and I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I think the big thing he's trying, this policy is trying to say is that, trying to remove the delineation of the innovative high schools, that last part of the rubric.
He's trying to get rid of it?
I think that's what he's,
That's not,
Oh.
we can't operate that way.
but I think it's the part that, talks about, whether you are college, whether you are a first-time college attendee, I
Right,
guess.
so that next section.
Yeah.
I think, right, so that number 3, and we've got more information that we can provide on that.
Please.
I think the statement, though, that is written here in red, if approved by the policy committee and then approved by the board, changes the student assignment plan. Because because it uses the magnet school terminology, and then it also says that they could only apply to the magnet school closest to their domicile, which that limits our applicants. So we really, at this point, we do not have that in place. So I think it's up
So
to the,
again, that would, like, for instance, let's take, Snipes. So basically that if you didn't live closer to Snipes, if you want, but right now, if somebody from Carolina Beach wanted to go to Snipes, they could. But this policy, as it's written, would limit that, so they would not be able to.
the additional language would. If this additional language was not in there, then if the language in red, the sentence here, then we would continue and we would allow more opportunity for parents to choose those specialty schools.
Purpose of having
Sorry?
that's the purpose of having a specialty school, so parents across the district can.
And right now, just, so we are aware of that number, do you know, are our specialty schools full for the most part? And if not, we want to keep those doors open as much as we possibly can.
Exactly. So our year-round schools are at cap. Our specialty schools are not. So we would like to welcome applicants from any place so that we can continue to provide seats there. The year-round schools, just for example, we had about, combined between Eaton and Coddington, around 70 children on the wait list. So we were able to accept the vast majority of interested parents to year-round. And then for specialty school, we could still accept more students. So we don't have a wait list, and we could still accept more students there.
Okay.
So limiting that geographic area could be problematic in allowing more students in.
What about going to the next paragraph, which is, again, I think the one that is the best or most important to be discussed at this point, I would think, and that would be the one about the innovative high schools. Taking that one line off the rubric, how would that negatively affect, or, and I think everybody's kind of going back and forth on that, but the one that, talks about the not having college, first-time
Right,
college.
so I think I have some information for you about that. So I did give you a hard copy of the rubric today, so you have that at your desk. You'll see that the total points
Got it, right here.
from the rubric are 78 points, and then plus the 5 for first-time college, making a total 83. So I do want to point out, I gave you a copy of the General Statute 115C 238.50 that says that the purpose of the cooperative innovative high school programs shall target either students at risk of dropping out, high school students with parents who did not continue education beyond high school, and high school students who would benefit from accelerated academic instruction. To sort of define that, students whose parents did not continue education beyond high school, we are looking at parents who have degrees versus attended some college. Because even for our students who are in the CCP program and take classes through the community college, through their high school, that counts as some college for them, even if they don't do anything beyond high school. So we're counting degreed parents versus people with college, but that does say shall target that, so I do want to just point that out. And then, so you have this sheet that has all three of our cooperative innovative high schools numbers on there with the number of applicants, the number accepted, and then the number that actually enroll. But of course, just like in a college, just because you're accepted doesn't mean that people are going to enroll. Oftentimes, they're making other options. And then you have three sheets. Yours is a little bit bigger than this, but the one with the green at the top, that is actually Isaac Bear, and it shows that, let me scroll up, that Isaac Bear for this year, this current year, had 6 students admitted because those 5 points tipped them over the cut score. And however, those students were admitted, but their admission did not deny the spot of any other non-first generation college attendee. At CTEC, 8 students were admitted based on those 5 points, but none of those took the place of anyone who would have been admitted and admitted anyway. And then at WEX, they didn't exactly answer that question, but the short story from Ms. Hall is that no one was denied admission so that someone else who did not get those 5 extra points could be admitted. If that helps.
And so that's the one, as, my colleague to the right? This set is, I guess, as far as the policy, is the one that's most needy, the one that, I guess, is the most apparent that, Mr. Perry is concerned about.
What are your thoughts, yes, ma'am? Ms. Mason?
So I'm in looking at the rubric. How often, I know that you and I had a brief conversation, so Dr. Hamilton, not Miss, Dr. Hamilton, about how often this is used, if it breaks any ties, and any students that were pulled up because of those extra 5 points, what kind of data do we have that that was a successful thing for them? Should they have gotten those points? Did they utilize them? You know what I mean, to the best of their
So I asked Ms.
opportunity.
Hall that question after you asked that. She said very rarely do they return to their home school. She can work on those numbers, but most of the time they stay there and remain there and do just fine.
And as far as are there frequent ties that have to be broken by something like that?
I don't know about ties, but I can say that according to these reports that we gathered, that no one was not admitted because someone else was. So
Oh, Todd.
So
Tie.
I don't know that,
Tie.
you know, I don't know that ties matter. Even if we both had, if you and I both had 60 points, I don't know that that matters because no one was not admitted because of someone else, she said.
And then the other, I'm so sorry, Mr. Wildebohr, am I good? He's not. The other thing, what was it that the different programs have different levels of acceptance, correct?
They each create their own cut score. And then once round 1 has gone through and X number of children do not accept, then to make sure that we are trying to fill those buildings to the capacity that we need for them to be for space purposes and for staffing purposes, they will go back and lower that cut score for around 2, sometimes around 3, to help fill those spots there.
And to clarify, the cut score is established by the number of seats that are available, which is based on the school's capacity, not based on an arbitrary cut score that they want for enrollment.
That's very helpful. Like, if they have different cut scores, how are they choosing that?
Right,
But if
and
it's
it's
based on
going to depend
capacity,
on how
that
many
makes sense.
seats they have and how many points their group of applicants have to where the cut score needs to be. And then, depending upon how many accept the seat, so they can apply and be accepted, but then how many of them actually then present for enrollment?
Can I ask a quick question? So what is the wait list for the 3 schools? Do you know? Yeah. Because I did have, to be totally honest, Dr. Barnes and I talked about a young lady, you and I talked about the same young lady that her sister already attends one of these schools, and she was not, was not on it, but then later on, it was like, we have nobody on the wait list, so I'm like, but the child wanted to go, so.
Right,
that would
So according,
if a student applies and they meet the qualifications, and they're ranked ordered, and then the cut score is at a certain place, those remaining that met qualifications
Right.
will be on a wait list. If they don't meet the qualifications, the minimum requirements,
Right.
then they don't go on a wait list because they're not eligible for enrollment in the school.
Gotcha.
Is that what you're talking about, your young lady was in that situation? Okay, so she wasn't qualified, I guess the word's qualified?
Because I actually asked, because with our other schools, the elementary schools, if a sister's on and another sister applies, they're automatically in. And I said, don't we have that? But for the high schools, they do not.
That's a different.
For traditional high schools, we do.
Yeah.
But for the specialty high schools or the cooperative innovative high schools, they have to meet certain requirements to participate in the rigor of the program that includes college courses.
Set them up for success.
Miss Mason?
Full of the questions. I never have questions, so you should be excited.
am.
This
I'm
one
very
is not
excited.
for you, ladies. It is for the gentleman sitting right next to me, and that is looking at General Statute 115C-238.5A. It says these cooperative, the last sentence of that particular first paragraph, these cooperative innovative high school programs shall target any of the following groups, and then it has 3 different groups of students. Can you indicate, are these mandatory? Are they something that we would like to have? Can we pick and choose? What's your interpretation of that?
I think it uses the shall, and Dr. Hamilton and I very briefly spoke a minute ago, and I think that's the same reading. You and Ms. Barnum's over there agree, and I haven't asked the School Boards Association, but if you look in the very next part 10 of this same article that talks about regional schools, and I'll give you the reason I think it's mandatory is because the admissions criteria for regional schools, and that's 115C-238.67C, it says may give priority to first-generation students. So the General Assembly is using different language there. It's permissive in that point. It's may. This is shall. Look, you could read that as shall target students in any of these following, or any one of these following groups. I think the more realistic view is that they mean any of them. That if you are a student and you fall into one of those 3 categories, that you got to be targeted by the criteria. And the problem with that is that on page 25 here, this part that says level of, in the parenthetical, level of parents' education is problematic for that reason. If we strike that out, I think that we're compliant with the rest of it. You don't have to consider income, and you don't have to consider geographical location. But you do have to consider whether or not their parents continued education beyond high school.
My question in that, though, would be, because it says that the cooperative innovative high school programs shall, which I agree, target any of the following groups. We give points for one of the three, we don't give points for the other two.
And I don't know how to work that.
Yeah.
I mean, because those are a little bit, how do you demonstrate that you're at risk of dropping out or that you would benefit from accelerated academic instruction? I mean, I mean, that's more of a staff question than me, but I certainly think it would be that you do need to target those. I just don't know how.
And it's not as cut and dry. It's real cut and dry with educational. Parents.
So it is our understanding that the board can choose to prioritize any of those 3 points, 1, 1A, or 2. And like Mr. Blanchard just mentioned, the rubric, or somebody just mentioned, the rubric does, maybe it was you, Mr. Miller, include the 1A, parents who do not continue education beyond high school, by having the level of parent education included. So the rubric, by our view, does comply with the general statute. The language on page 25 that would say not to include, so we don't include family income, do include level of parent education, and we don't include geographical location with regard to our cooperative innovative high schools, because they're all so very different, and we don't zone the county by a geographic boundary for those. So that again would limit our opportunities for parents to apply for the program that they believe is the best fit for their student.
And can I add that we, the children who would benefit from accelerated academic instruction, so those are going to be the children who have the highest number of points from the rubric, because they would be the ones with like all level 5s, all A's, and so that increases their number of points. So that is the way that is intended to address that section 2 right there.
Okay. Is there any way we could address number 1? Could maybe counselors?
So there are, we do, of course, do operate dropout prevention programming, and we do that in any of our schools, whether it's a cooperative innovative high school or a traditional high school. And a lot of that is the work of our school counselors, school social workers, graduation coaching efforts. We engage in dropout prevention efforts early on with our attendance campaigns and maintaining routine, timely attendance in school. So we often have utilized other alternative programming, J.C. Rowe, sometimes just unique specialty high schools that's not specific to cooperative innovative high school, like Mosley, to really support based on the type of need the student has that concerns us for risk of dropping out. How well do they feel connected to their school environment? And if they don't feel connected to their school environment because of the size or because of the different types of activities, then that's where we look at assisting them and being placed where they feel that they can be most successful. So it's not specific to the cooperative innovative high school.
Well,
Ms. Justice?
this seems pretty cut and dry because that is the state statute which has precedent over anything that we come up with. So I don't know how you're going to wiggle around this and just go with it. I have a lot of concern about even bringing this up. You know me, I'm an educator first. And I've read plenty of studies. I've been involved with schools that this was a huge plus to have the first time college attending students participate. I don't see any downside to this. I'm not sure why this is even in here. This is probably a personal perspective. Everybody's got different ones, but as professional, my professional perspective is this is, and the state created it for a reason. It's to break the cycle of certain culture in families that don't believe in higher education. But it works. And that's nothing but a benefit for the students and our community. So I'm not sure why this would even be an issue, but that, the state apparently agrees with me. How's that happen?
Mason?
I think that when we're looking at these changes, just for clarity's sake, the cooperative innovative high schools are not part of a lottery, correct?
Right. They are more of a rubric application process. They're not a lottery process.
So initially, they were included under lottery assignment, correct?
Right, in the section of the policy originally, it was clarifying that lottery assignment would not be, this was where the weights got in, the weights were discussed, and weights are applied to the rubric, which is kind of, they were more connected because of weights, not because of lottery. Right.
Yeah.
So it really shouldn't, they shouldn't be considered lottery, but they became connected in the discussion about whether weights should be applied.
So I think that based off of just the separation of, if they're not under the lottery assignment, I don't think we should put them, but I do think it's important that we have a section about that in policy.
Can I offer a
Because-
suggestion?
I mean,
Would that be
ask
helpful?
that chair,
Would
not
that
this
be
chair.
helpful?
Why you're here.
So the, under lottery assignment, the last section added where it talks about how in the case of year-round or magnet, students must apply for year-round or magnet to their domicile that provides an equivalent school calendar and educational environment. Nearest their domicile. Unless you want to limit access for applicants, that should not be included because the student assignment plan is already presented to the board for approval. So how that is completed in that process is already approved by the board.
So you're saying strike the word save the student's geographic proximity?
No, I'm on page 25.
Oh, you're on 25.
Yep, I'm sorry. I was looking at the new language.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I mean, would it not be better to go back to 20 and use what we have here and just make tweaks to that versus starting a whole, just because Mr. Perry has brought this forward doesn't mean we have to. I don't think that 25 has ever been approved.
Page 20. That makes good sense. So the
I try
student
to do that
assignment.
once in a while. Throw it off. I didn't.
No, I like that. Student assignment plan shall detail the procedures for how the lottery assignment will work. All lotteries will provide an equal chance for all students to be selected. No weighted preferences shall be made save the student's geographical proximity to the school. And then that last sentence can be removed. This does not include the cooperative innovative high schools, right? So
But
you can-
also, should we also get rid of the words save the student's geographic proximity to the school or no?
Depends
The
sometimes.
student assignment plan is going to clarify that there is a geographic proximity for year-round schools.
Mhm.
So you could take that part out, because the student assignment plan is gonna cover
Right.
it. So you could, so if you
You said,
removed
you
save
Because-
students' geographical
yeah.
proximity, that's covered
Yeah.
elsewhere.
Well, and it's
Okay.
also because, as you said, like with Snipes, you don't want to do that anyway.
Right, so it's only for where it does
Right.
apply,
Mhm.
okay? And then if you go back to page 25 and you look at that section 3,
Mhm.
a suggestion for admission to cooperative innovative high schools, leave the first two sentences. NHCS administration will develop an admissions rubric for entry into these programs. This rubric and any alterations to it must be approved by the board.
But we already have that in here, don't we?
But I do not believe the rubric itself was previously approved by the board. But Dr. Barnes and I discussed that this rubric can be added to the student enrollment and assignment plan that I do bring to the board for approval, and it can be added as an appendix to the back.
That's a good idea, so people
Okay.
can see what's going on.
So then you're, right, so then your first two sentences and remove the rest, as that would become unnecessary when the board approves the rubric.
So just leave the
You
first
getting all
sentence, two sentences. I got it.
Okay.
I can make the motion if you want.
Yeah, well, if you would, and that way there, and I would just say, instead of
Everything
adding it
else
on
is
the
wrong.
bottom, as was just said, why don't we have a new sections 3? Because that's, it's a different thing. So why don't we call it a different thing? And make the 3 from page 25. But I'm gonna let Ms. Mason do that. Go ahead.
All right,
You go
so
ahead and
I
do
will
it.
make a motion that we, why did I sign up for that?
You raised your hand, I saw it.
I know I did. Okay, so I make a motion that we remove from under lottery assignment, we remove save the student's geographical proximity to the school. This does not include the cooperative innovative high school programs. And we add a section 3, thus altering the remaining numbers, with the sentence, New Hanover County Administration will develop an admissions rubric for entry into these programs. This rubric and any alterations to it must be approved by the board.
I'll second that.
Okay, so now it's discussion. So all we're doing is we're getting rid of everything in the red except section 3 and that first two sentences.
Correct.
Is that correct? And that
On 20, page 25, section.
On page 25.
Yeah.
25. All right, and I'm a little confused. There's the red and the deleted over here on 2. So we're not approving that. We're just approving number 3 in the first two sentences.
On page 25.
On 25.
Okay.
And then on 20,
Go back to 20, yes.
eliminating save, everything from save until programs.
Gotcha.
Is that, are we?
Okay, so we have a motion, second, any further discussion?
That was fine.
Hearing none, all in favor, please signify of amending policy 4150 with Ms. Mason's motion. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. All right.
Do we have to send that to the board too? That was
Yeah,
just the amendment, or was that to send it?
It has to go to the board, yeah.
Perfect.
And I don't even know where my little sheet is, but you got it, so we got it. So, all right. I don't know where my usual little sheet.
And I can talk to Ms. Kadetsky too
One
afterwards.
over there. Got there. Let's go over here.
Okay.
All right, so 4150 is going amended to the board for a full discussion. Amended 4150. All right, carrying on, our other probably lengthy discussion will be policy 2230, which is on page
Yeah, find that page.
2230. 30. 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, okay. And updates here, change in name on the first section, delete safety in section 4. So finance has changed from finance to finance bond and capital joint committee, deleting the whole safety section 4, updating section 4 under curriculum to 3 board members. And I believe Ms. Mason, just to let everybody know, that we did, that's what was approved by the board, was 3 board members.
So if I could tell you exactly when and exactly what the vote was. So back in April, end of April, on the 29th, it was an agenda review. We had a lot of discussion about this, and the changes that I had sat down with our subject matter expert, I brought forth those, and the motion was made initially to make it into a board standing committee with 2 additional members. 2 additional members. So there's already
That's what the
one.
confusion was. I
2
thought it was
additional.
2 men, you said additional,
So-
which meant you already had 1 member. so
3
that's what
total.
That's what the confusion, I didn't realize that.
And then that was a 7-0 vote. So, and that was back in April. So I went back and watched all of that fun discussion.
Well, yeah, I understand what happened. I think there was confusion. That's probably the reason it ended up the way it did with the 7-0.
And then continuing with 2230, section 10, which is the turnaround task force, which is still carrying on as the elevation group, but it's not one of our committees anymore. It's on their own, so that is deleted. And a new section G, which goes through committee assignment process. And that, I don't know where that actually came from, but that's there now too. So, anyway.
If I might, I think that was an
Ms.
addition
Mason?
by, I think that was an addition by Mr. Perry as well.
Okay, all right. Well, so it's up for discussion. We can make the motion to bring it onto the full board. We can discuss parts of it.
I'll make a motion that we send it to the board
All right, I'll second
as,
that.
as amended, as it has been.
Well,
Okay, and then we can discuss
And
it.
then we can
okay,
discuss.
let's have a
Okay.
discussion.
Okay, discuss, wait a minute.
discuss away. All right, are these all of our committees?
They are.
All right, what happened to the legislative committee? Is it in here?
It's there.
Where's it at? I'm sorry.
It should be number 2, I believe. Yep.
Starts at the bottom of 30, and then the summary of it is on the top of 31. So if the number for legislative committee is right there on the bottom of 30, and then anything talking about it is on the next page.
Okay, my confusion about this is that when we were talking about the bond, finance bond capital joint, we talked about this, and I did not go back over, look at our meetings to see exactly what we said. But we were going to put them all three together into that committee? Right, but now in this, it's standing separately?
They're all together. It says all three together. On page 30, Finance, Bond, and Capital Joint Committee.
And then the legislative committee, which was going to be with it.
No, legislative was never put under that. It
Okay,
was, we
there-
combined finance, bond, and capital
And tha-
because
and
of the
that's-
related
and
nature.
that's my confusion, because we had, at the time we made that distinction with the bond and the capital, all put them together, we also said legislative. We can go back and look at it, but I know that was part of the discussion. So I was under the impression that was one of the groups that were folded from, 3 different committees into one. So,
No, and I think the legislative, because the discussion at that point was, because if you remember, legislative met every month, and now it meets biannually. Yeah.
well, as I said, I remember that it was going to be folding into this committee to make all 3 of these together into one.
Well,
Yeah,
before then.
before, yeah, before, yeah. As far as the twice, okay, there's some confusion in my brain about what's going on here. I think a separate legislative committee would be appropriate, but during the discussion at the time, and I can't remember exactly what it was, it seemed very, rational to put them all together.
We never put legislative with finance.
I need to go back and look at that.
What we combined was finance, bond, and capital. Simply
Right.
because of the nature of all 3 of those committees, it has
they
a,
make
has a
sense.
joint, is a joint purpose. They have a joint purpose. And so we only combined finance, bond, and capital that we have listed here. Legislative has always been, and hopefully, I would assume, will always be its own separate entity because it doesn't have that same focus.
And you
Well, the
think-
focus at the time was the legislature were talking about finance, and they are like this. And that's why I believed that we had put it together. Now, I'm going to go back and watch it. I mean, we can move this to the board, but I would like to go, I'll find it. Now, there's ways to find things, you know that, where we had that discussion.
And if I might direct you, probably either March, one of the March meetings, it would be the March agenda review,
Okay.
the April agenda review, because I believe it took us a couple months to get through all the committees, at least a couple months. And I think there was a work session that we had there was part of that as well. So it would be in that time frame for you.
And the other thing too, if you think about it with capital, because I was on capital, and capital meets once a year, and bond, to that point, it never met, so.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
why they
all
kinda
like
brought
new.
it
We're putting
together.
something together. So that's why, at the time, it seems to me we had talked about putting legislature in there too, because it all had to do with, if you want to get down to it, funding our schools. I mean,
Let's-
you look at all that.
Let's take a moment to look at section G, though. Is there any discussion on that specific section?
Section
G.
G.
Which is the
That's
committee
all
assignment
new-
process.
New writing, the chairperson signing.
Oh, yeah.
Can I speak to that?
Yes, you may. Go ahead, Ms. Mason.
So when I got on as chair in December, I was very new to the whole process. It's like jumping into very deep water and
Right,
somebody
yeah.
throwing some bricks at you to try and figure out what you're doing. And so I definitely admit that there were some missteps on my part when it came to this particular section. And so just so that for future chairs, there is that, this is the expectation. It's more, to me, if I had had this guidance, I feel as though there would have been less bumps in that arena. And so I think that this is a good protective thing for future boards, for this board and for future boards. And so I support it. I think that I made mistakes, and I think that this could have possibly prevented some of them. But again, to protect this board and future boards, I think that this is an excellent addition to it.
And can I, yeah, don't beat yourself up. Because this has never happened. It's up to whoever became chair to do it the way they wanted to, and there was a lot of bizarre behavior behind it, let's be real. We've seen some strange things. I think you did the best you could with the kind of information you were given and the expectations and your newness as a position. I'm sure that Pete has felt the same way when he first got it. I don't think you were following this exactly, but
Oh, piece of cake, piece of cake.
this is, it's a good idea, though, to have
Yeah.
steps and, limitation. You know where everything's coming from there.
Okay.
So that's, yeah, it's a good
Well,
idea.
I'd entertain a motion then to carry policy 2230 onto the full board.
I did.
Oh, you made that motion. I will look for a second then.
We already had that.
Who seconded?
I think you did.
I did. Okay, there we go. All in
But
favor of moving
Can I
2230?
hold up? There's one thing that I received a message about. The adjustment of the order of finance would be finance capital bond, not finance bond capital, I guess. That was a concern that was sent to me, so.
Okay. So then you would like to
So
change your motion? Or
I make a
amend your
motion that we send this on to the full board with the adjustment of finance capital bond and the additions.
Okay. I'll second that again. Yes, ma'am?
I just want to point out one nuance, if you don't mind, please. On page 31, at the bottom, under Board Advisory Committees, the last sentence says the board chairperson will appoint one board member to each advisory committee, and that was changed for the curriculum committee in the revised updates. So perhaps just say the board chairperson will appoint board member, or maybe put like a little parentheses S on the end of that.
Members?
Right,
I'm going to kind of jump in, don't do anything yet, because that is for oh, no, never mind. Nope,
Advisory.
sorry,
Yep.
just kidding.
I think that,
Put an S.
so would you like to amend your motion? Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
What am I amending at this time?
Well, I'll make a substitute motion then to change section B under, to the board chairperson will appoint board member with S in there to each of those, and keep the rest of what Ms. Mason said. Is there a second to my amendment?
With the S? I'll say
Yeah,
yes.
okay, all right. Now we have an amended motion. Did you get that? Okay, got that? All right, all in favor of passing 2230 onto full board as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Carries 3-0. All right, we'll go home now. No, almost.
Not done.
All right, advanced delivery. Advanced delivery.
Oh, this is interesting.
This is our next one. Let's see what page we're on over here. Yeah, that Barnes guy is kind of helpful with this kind of stuff, keeping up with that.
Yeah,
39, thank you.
if you want to be technical, it starts at 38.
All right. Now, this is one we really need to discuss. It actually came from one of our press folks in the area that talks about the fact that we really need to follow our own
Transparency.
policy, and that we may not be doing so. So we want to make sure we are right on top of it. So 2235. All right, so who would like to carry us through this one? Right now, are we able to, at least 5 days including holidays, prior to each regular or interim board meeting, the agenda review meeting, the superintendent shall provide the following materials to each board member. The agenda, but also I think now the discussion is what are we providing to the press, et cetera.
Public.
Has to do with open meeting law.
So related to that, I think it's primarily related to the last section. The proposed agenda and supporting materials will be made available for public inspection 48 hours prior to the start of the meeting. And I think that's the part of the policy that the media has indicated that we're not necessarily following. I know that in speaking with staff, that would definitely push up the workload for them to have everything, even documents that may be changed, or if there's a special speaker, that all of that would be readily available to the public. I don't know how that is a possibility other than making it not, maybe Ms. Brinson can speak to, there's a certain like privacy setting, I'm assuming, that we can access, but the public cannot when it comes to the proposed agenda. What would that look like from your standpoint if we were to make it available to the public even before that? Is that a lot of work? Is that?
I will try and answer that, because this is actually software that Ms. Bowie manages, so I'm not in there. But if I understand you correctly, basically what I'm hearing is that the time in which we open it up to the general public with all the attachments and stuff, you're looking to move it sooner. Is that what you're saying?
Just asking if if it's a massive burden, because I know our staff has multiple responsibilities, and so we have to consider what our staff is able to do, how much they already have on their plate, and if this is not a feasible option, how can we adjust policy to make it more feasible?
Well, the majority of our stuff we have ready for the agenda review. And
Right.
we have to have it by so many days before the agenda review. However, there have been times when stuff had to be tweaked or updated between the agenda review and actually the board meeting. Maybe sometimes based on conversation at the agenda review, or sometimes it's, not getting information from, an outside person that we're having to update. But the majority of the time, everything we have is up and ready at the agenda review time. So unless there's changes, that's not necessarily an issue to meet that 48 hours before the board meeting. The part that I have concern with actually is the contracts and MOUs 30 days prior till, before the contract ends, because that's just not always doable, and dealing with vendors and getting quotes, because now we have vendors that tell us because of the tariffs, their quotes are only good for 30 days. So trying to get that far ahead is sometimes very difficult.
My other question, my question too, though, is you're saying you're referencing the board meetings, but it's also the agenda review. So
Right.
is it available? I mean, one very easy fix could be to, take that last line and make it available for public inspection 24 hours. So that would give you guys an extra day to be able to upload things.
Because right now, we upload our stuff the Friday before the agenda review meeting, which is on that Tuesday. So that's when we have to have our stuff up. We don't always meet
That's
the midday
wonderful.
deadline that Crystal likes us to have. Sometimes it's the end of the day before we get it there, but that Friday before that, before the agenda review is when we have to have our stuff up.
Would it be, I guess my question would it be helpful to say, instead of that Friday, to do it that Monday? Or is that not that big of a deal?
I think that's a state law that it has to be, and I don't know that or off the top of my head, but I think that 48 hours is a state requirement. I don't think it's a us requirement.
Okay.
You mean 48 hours prior to the meeting, it should be available to the public?
Yeah, I
Yep.
think so.
I think so,
I'm not
too.
100% sure.
Okay, and I hate to say this, but where is that on this policy?
The
It's
very
on the
sentence.
last sentence. Post agenda and supporting materials will be made
Okay,
available.
thank you. I was just trying, because I knew it was there, but I was
Yeah.
looking all over the place.
But, I think that the gentleman that brought this forth said that we were not following our own policy, so.
And
Well,
if I might, I think it's because when we do our agenda review, on that particular agenda, it says review of agenda items. And what they are asking for access to is all the documents under that specific
yeah, that's what they said.
item.
Yeah, that's what they said.
And I think that's where what we're trying to sort through.
Yeah, because the actual main, when it comes time for the agenda review, there's the two documents. There's the actual agenda review agenda, and then there's the actual board meeting agenda. And because during the agenda review, you're actually going over what's happening at the board meeting, so that's where the two agendas, and there really aren't very many attachments usually for the agenda review, because that is it's only if there's a presentation done. Everything else is really an attachment for the actual board meeting.
They want to have 48 hours be able to inspect those presentations and everything else that we were talking about during the agenda review. I believe that's what the big issue is that they haven't had access to some things that pop up during the agenda review until that very moment.
Well, thoughts? How we could change this policy, or we can, you know, I
It's
mean,
hard.
yeah.
I know from having been on the board for as long as I have since and watched a lot of different things come down, things appear at the last minute suddenly, you weren't aware, not within the 48 hours, you still want to put them on the agenda for the agenda review to be able to cover it. And that's just the reality of what we're dealing with when we're dealing with so many issues publicly, in the schools, and just so much. I mean, I'd love to be able to do it 48 hours. Have you guys got a miracle that we can do it and still do it right? Lawyer, Mr. Lawyer?
Well, we have,
I was looking, I'm sorry, I'm trying to look on my phone right now. To give you an idea of how the statute reads, 132-6, it says that you shall permit any record to be inspected and examined at reasonable times and under reasonable supervision.
Okay.
And shall, as promptly as possible, furnish copies. And I think that's their gripe, is that they feel, the press obviously always feels like that you should, the first thing you should do when you work with a draft is send it to them for their review. But that's not feasible administratively.
That's not what that says.
That's right. I was going to say, and if you put things on the internet, then you've complied. So, I mean, if you told people, if you had a regular schedule, you can't have it, you know, available to them 6 weeks after the meeting or something like this. But I don't know that you immediately have to put it down, and I don't know that necessarily 48 hours prior to the start of the meeting is reasonable. You could change that to say,
24?
will ordinarily be made available for public inspection, or you could change it to say, if feasible, you know.
Which is what the statute
promptly as
says.
possible, yeah. I mean, anything like that, but.
I'd go with the
I
statute.
mean, I get that the staff, it's difficult, and I think Dr. Barnes had expressed the concern that a lot of things are being edited almost right up until the meeting. You know,
Yeah.
they're getting input and are changing it all along, and there might be 10 different versions of something between a week ahead of time and the time for the agenda meeting.
So perhaps we should amend this, change it to reflect the statute, and take the 48 hours out?
Yeah, I mean, look, the idea is that you need to try to make it available as reasonably as quick as you can, but there's a little bit of wiggle room in there, and you have to think about what's administratively feasible when you do that. And
Absolutely.
I don't know how to reduce that to words without having a long paragraph there.
Well, could you read that one more time that you had just read about the expectation, the statute for providing these documents?
And it's 132-6.
Right.
If you have a question, and it's A.
Okay. 6A.
At reasonable times and under reasonable supervision, and shall, as promptly as possible, furnish copies. So, you know, it goes on. A1 says that you can satisfy the requirements by making them available online in a format that allows a person to view the public record. That is not. This is 132-6, and I'm scrambling on my phone here to find this stuff.
So this is a different legal reference that he has than what you just brought up. I thought he said 115C-36A. That's what I thought he said.
Okay, and Dr. Hamilton pointed out to me that in the notice of meetings part, it's 143-318. This is in the open meetings.
Those are three
So
different
you,
policies. Every different statute.
the 48 hours is talking about the 48-hour notice for meetings.
For meeting.
Other than the.
For
right,
meeting.
Right, that's the 48-hour notice rather than the agenda. You do have to turn out your agenda 48 hours ahead of time if you're having a special meeting. But the records themselves, you know, you're.
What were you reading one more time? It wasn't the one we thought. That
No.
was,
I was reading 143-318 is the open meetings law and the talk about the notice for meetings.
that's the one you just read a few minutes ago before we
But
had
the
this
one
discussion.
before, the Public Records Act, is 132-6.
And that's the 48-hour notice, but
The
that's,
48-hour notice deals with giving notice of a meeting. It's a little bit slightly different than the records themselves. If the- Yeah, I mean, it's, look,
Could we cite-
there's ambiguity in the statute, and that has ambiguity in that, but the 48 hours, I mean, there are gonna be times when they're simply not prepared at all,
Reasonable.
48 hours ahead of the agenda meeting, for example, or this meeting.
so,
I'm looking at 115C-36, which is what the legal reference that's cited, and I don't
That
know
seems to have
why it's on there because it says designation of board, and I can read, it's a very short, it says, "All powers and duties conferred and imposed by law respecting public schools, which are not expressly conferred and imposed upon some other official, are conferred and imposed upon local boards of education. Said boards of education shall have general control and supervision of all matters pertaining to the public schools in their respective administrative units, and they shall enforce the school law in their respective units."
That's just the statute forming school boards to be the head of the
So I'm-
administration for a
so that's
county.
not, that's
I'm
not-
really puzzled as to why that's the legal reference if that isn't related to the actual policy. So
Okay.
I would
I would
think we
use
should
the-
have the pertinent general
The
statute
one he just read.
132-6.
as
Yeah.
the legal reference. I think we need to change that legal reference because that's not, it doesn't appear accurate.
The wording in the last line from 48 hours to, feasible, and then the legal reference changes from general statute 153-336 to
143? Oh,
132-1.
okay, now this, and that is the one you just read, 132?
132-6 is the public records,
And you read that one out loud, the reasonable?
Right,
Right.
right, and that's part A of it.
You said feasible? It said feasible and
Soon
reasonable?
as feasible.
How about reasonable, feasible? Both of those words are used in that, isn't it?
I think potato, potato.
I think it says reasonably,
Yeah, I remember reasonable, 'cause I wrote that down.
reasonably promptly or something.
Well, this will be good though, because now we're aligned with the state statute, and they can't say, well, no.
As soon as we get out of here, we're gonna have complaints from people that we're restricting access, but, you know.
This is a working district. You gotta understand.
The policy manual is kind of a living document of
Yeah,
sorts.
absolutely.
And so there has to be some changes.
And 132-6 is at reasonable times and under reasonable supervision as promptly as possible. That's actually the operative language is as promptly as possible.
Vision.
So I'll change my motion from feasible as promptly as possible.
Yep.
Then change the legal reference.
That is certainly compliant.
Okay.
And that's
I'd second it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I wrote down exactly what he said. Reasonable times and under supervisors
Under
and,
reasonable supervision, and you know, the idea behind that is, you can ask for access, and demand that the public office open at 3 o'clock in the morning so you can go and visit.
so can we use that whole term, you know, the reasonable times and under supervisor, yeah.
So we're not going to supervise, so for instance, we put this on the internet, we can't supervise.
Can you turn your mic on?
And A1 of the same statute points out that you can meet your obligation by putting things on the internet.
Well, that's what the discussion is. They want it on the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you want to leave it as promptly as possible? You don't want to add these other caveats
Yeah,
that
I don't think we
involve?
do, because then how are we gonna, we can't supervise them, so we're not gonna be able to supervise them.
No, well, that's not us.
No.
How about reasonable times and promptly as possible?
That's fine with me. That's good.
Okay. But I really do think reasonable times, put time
I-
to be in there.
If I might, I think the difficulty is that reasonable is kind of a
Everybody's different?
subjective term.
Okay.
Like
promptly
what
as-
one person might consider reasonable, another
There
person
you
might
go.
not.
Then we'll get
So
more
I would be
letters.
hesitant to put that in.
We can get more letters.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in
Okay.
favor of moving 2335 onto the full board as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. Passes 3-0. All
And
right,
that, that's fitting with state statute. That's good.
that's right.
Always go that way.
All right, next we are on to 2310. And I'm going to ask Mr. Blanchard to start the discussion on
What
that.
page is that? Do you have
That
that?
is 41.
41, Miss Mason, you're in charge of that from now on. Barnes, you're out, Mason's in.
I always tab mine.
Oh, nice. Mr. Blanchard?
Here we go.
Okay, I think the reason this is before us is because of the call to the audience issues that people have been having, and in particular, issues with courtesy and civility and decorum on this. And at the last meeting, we talked briefly about, I mentioned a case called Davison versus Rose, and it was and handed out this blog from Professor Bluestein about criticizing public employees in public. And I think the concern that the board has is dealing with people who they feel like are targeting individual board members and in a aggressive or harassing way. The Davison case mentions the policy at issue there was the Loudoun County School Board's policy, and I'm reading from the case. Their policy does not allow comments, quote, that are harassing or amount to a personal attack against any identifiable individual, including school board members. So that was their policy, and their rationale for it was that personal attacks should be prohibited because they have the potential for causing unnecessary delay or disruption. And the Fourth Circuit upheld that. I will tell you, Dr. Morgan here helped me out just a minute ago. Loudoun County has since changed their policy. It doesn't have that language in it anymore. But it was upheld in 2021. So that's the job for us here, is to allow people to, to comply with their rights, their First Amendment rights, but at the same time to maintain some order in the meeting. And I think obviously there's a lot of subjectivity involved with that.
Absolutely.
People who are being railed at themselves feel like what's harassing oftentimes is that line's crossed a lot more quickly than other people might feel like the line is crossed. And I don't know how to have a policy that doesn't involve some subjective judgment calls.
And First Amendment, don't we?
But right, you can, now, what we do know is that you can have reasonable, as Professor Bluestein says, reasonable time, manner, and place restrictions. You can tell people 3 minutes. You can tell people no shouting. You can tell people no amplified noise. And you can also, based on Davison, tell people, that you can't go up there and make personal attacks against people. The rationale for that is, like they said, that it causes the meeting to break down into a shouting match. And we've seen that at some of our meetings. It's not an idle concern. It's a real concern. But at the same time,
Activity.
yeah, and I,
Activity.
just to toss an idea out here, aside from the language that we've got here, I had discussed with the chair, and briefly with Ms. Mason and others, the option of the board allowing individual board members to excuse themselves. That respects their First Amendment rights, because you have the right. I mean, think about it, under the First Amendment, you have the right to tell people, no, you're an idiot. Now, it's impolite, and it is certainly something that the chair could discipline someone for, because, it is a breach of decorum. But you can't be prosecuted for it or anything like that. So, yeah, the First Amendment does protect it, but...
This is so subjective.
Yeah, it is, and that's the problem. I don't know how to come up with a policy that doesn't involve subjectivity.
Well, and you think about, the fact that as board members, we are asked to model this ourselves. So it's not, I think that Ms. Mason actually brought up some language here that, does reflect some of that even the things that we're asked to do. We're not supposed to call out Mrs. So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so or Dr. So-and-so. We're supposed to say the member to my left or the member to my right.
Colleague, yeah.
That kind of thing. So we're asking some of the folks, but this thing, I did actually reach out to a couple other board members, and one thing just to think about as we look at the stuff in the red here on page 42, is that one board member said we really should make sure that, like where it says Robert's Rules of Order, we should say Robert's Rules of Order newly revised 12th edition. And then the question was raised by a board member, said, in the first section, maintain civility and respect, shouting, personal attacks, and other disruptive behavior will not be permitted. And then what do we do? What is it, I mean, because as Ms. Mason knows as chair, as I knew as during my time as chair, that if we ever do have to ask the, our law enforcement partners to intervene, that they're not going to do it after if you say, well, I give you one chance and you're out, that they're not going to do that. So, we do need to at least have it modeled, something that can be enforced. We can't just say, well, I'm saying this and our policy says this. If the law enforcement folks, they will remove folks. In fact, goodness, we haven't had to do that in years. But
Thank God.
I mean, that's not what we want to do for sure. But it is, there is, otherwise you have somebody up there just, attacking somebody. So, your thoughts, Mr. Justice?
Well, that's why we're here. People are going to disagree with us. Once again, I've seen a lot. Seen a lot of different chairs. It is extremely subjective. And I can't help but agree with some people in the public who have been complaining to me, and I'm sure to you too, that a lot of these disagreements are, chairs' rulings are encouraging the chair to get the chair to stop our public comment section have to do with stifling free speech. And I happen to agree with that because I've seen it. It depends upon who's chair, what the environment is, but it definitely does restrict free speech sometimes. Now, personal attacks, I totally agree with that. Directed to the chair, that kind of thing. But there are certain, and I've seen it happen recently, where people are saying things that some of us in the dais don't like, and instead of listening to them, just sitting there, because that's why we're here, they start trying to shut them down. That's not our job to shut down the public. We're supposed to allow them to speak to us. So that's subjective, and that's what my concern is. And I've seen it done, you've seen it done, depending on who's chairing at what time and what was going on. You're doing a good job, and you did a good job. And thank God I can say that compared to some other things I've seen up there. But there's, we've got to be very aware of people's First Amendment rights and just control ourselves. I've had, during COVID, I had certain members on the board now who were screaming at me and saying horrible things. And you know what? I sit there and took it. And now maybe I'm sitting up there and seeing them not taking it so well. Our job is to listen. They shouldn't be doing some saying horrible things about us. I agree with that part. But we do need to listen to the public.
Well, and my question in the whole thing is, what decisions that are made by the board. Might be a 4-3 vote, might be a 7-0 vote, whatever it may be. you know, and like some of this thing here is, you know, going through the board, going through the chair, you know, if they, I mean, it's, this article I think is really great. I mean, it was really, I read it over twice, but it talks about the fact that you could say the same thing, and, you know, if you go and say, well, I don't agree with your decisions, board, that's a lot different than saying, I don't agree, Pete Willibor, you're crazy, you're an idiot.
No,
You know?
I said
Yeah,
that part, we
yeah.
don't need to be doing.
Yeah, right, that's what I'm saying. So if they come up and they chastise the board or whatever else, that's a lot different than, I think, what we're talking about here, where it's one board member that, you know, or any one of us. So, Ms. Mason, what do you think?
So when I was going through this and trying to determine, you know, what our next steps are, I listened to board members, and in my own personal view, I got on this board and I knew that the moment that I sat on that dais that I was going to get criticized, yelled at, insulted. And that is, to me, that's part of the job. And I believe personally that individuals have the right to say what they want to say. So I'm trying to balance this now between they have this right, they have their First Amendment rights, and I absolutely believe they have their First Amendment rights. If we already have standards that we're supposed to be abiding by, if Robert's Rules does dictate a certain expectation, not just from the board, but also from the public, then we need to rectify that. If it hasn't been done in the past, then we need to adjust and fix that. Like I said, personally, I think that the public has the right to say what they want to say. So I went in and I looked through Robert's Rules, and what I found in some of like the commentary and the different explanations, one of the things that was in this was during public comment. So, and I can send this. This is just something I just found, but it was one of the many documents that I had found. It says, require all speakers to address the remarks to the chair. That's the first thing it says under during public comment. So, in that light, I wanted to reflect what Robert's Rules is saying if we're supposed to be abiding by Robert's Rules. And I know that we're supposed to be getting that training at some point, and I'm trying to collect all of the numbers for that before I present it to the board to kind of determine who's going to do the training. But in our best ability, we should be following Robert's Rules as much as possible. It doesn't, not everything in there applies to us, but when we're looking at just basic expectations, maintaining decorum, I think that this verbiage kind of reflects what Robert's Rules is saying.
Yeah, there is, when people sign up for call to the audience, there has been some confusion too, because it's not, the call to the audience is not in line with necessarily what you're just now reading. So if we're going to do that, we need to obviously modify public-facing rules for call to the audience, because that's what I heard the last time.
And that's why I actually asked for that section. If you look on the right here, it says on your computer.
No, I'm just bringing that up.
But it's actually, call to audience sign-up sheets, because we do need to update that or change that to reflect.
That would change, that would cause less criticism.
Right, well, I mean, if we want to use it like this verbiage here, say, for instance, then we should have that printed on the call to audience so that it is, you know, the expectations are made clear.
Right, because when they go online and sign up, they read that, they need to have that right in front of them. Because that was a confusion, and that did cause some people to be upset.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing, is, you know, you can't blame somebody for not following rules if they don't know the rules are there.
There's 2 or 3 different rules, nobody's clear.
Right.
I agree with you, Tony.
Good.
So,
Ms. Mason?
sorry. So if we want to, I know that our attorney mentioned the possibility of adding some verbiage as far as if a board member needs to excuse themselves, allowing for that. Do we need to add that verbiage, or is that an expectation that we have? Do we need to codify it or not? And then secondly, if we want to make edits, I'm not married to this, so if we want to make edits to what I had, I have no problem with that. I would suggest direct comments to the board chair and eliminate about specific board members. That way, it removes the,
Turns it into a content neutral time, place, and manner restriction.
Yeah.
To use the legal verbiage for it, and that copies what Cornell University had suggested.
Okay.
And let me just,
Go ahead.
my biggest problem, people can insult me up and down all they want. I have been a middle school principal in the inner city. I can handle anything. What upsets me and what's sad is when they attack our staff and our students. Is any of that in here? How do we protect them? I hadn't even thought of that until now, but, you know, this is all about us and how we can handle it. There's some things that I might bring something to policy. I'm going to think about this.
Okay, yeah, think about it, because I mean,
Because we're okay. We got elected to this and we knew about it.
mhm.
We start attacking our staff and students who have no choice but to do what they're doing professionally.
I wonder if we could maybe change that section, direct comments about specific board members to, about the board to the chair. Because it really should be, you know, as I said before, the board makes the decisions, not any individual board member. Now, every individual board member has a vote, but the board makes the decision. So I think maybe we can, you know, ask, you know, maybe that second direct comments about specific board members to the board chair. I mean, we leave that. Please remember that decisions are made by the board, not by individual board members.
You mean to add that to
Yeah.
that second bullet?
Mhm. Because really, it's, you know, I can do whatever I want, but that doesn't mean that the rest of the board's going to follow that, or you can do, you know, any of
The
one of
majority,
us.
it's always the majority of the board that makes the
Yeah,
decision.
yeah, and the board, so it really should be directed to the board as a whole, and the chair is the person that's in charge of the board as a whole.
the representative of the entire board.
Right, you are a spokesperson, so.
Here we go, where people are feeling that they're being attacked personally, and that's why they speak to you,
Yeah.
you're the chair,
Mhm.
but you can still, I guess it's just a matter of the audience knowing, or the speaker knowing new parameters of.
Mhm. Well, I mean, I definitely think that if we were to adopt this, you know, of course, we don't adopt it here, if the board
Yeah.
were to adopt it, then it would need to go on to the, you know, the call to audience, when they sign up, they see, you know, the rules, and that's what, you know, it needs to happen, I would say.
If I might.
Ooh.
As it
Ms. Mason?
referred, as my colleague across the way was talking, there is a section C of that says reports of complaints. And it says complaints about the performance of school personnel, implementation of board policy, the quality of the educational program or school facilities should be submitted initially for a response to the school system official responsible for the program or the facility, or to the superintendent.
Yeah.
So it is talking about, school personnel is addressed in that policy as far as complaints about performance of the school personnel.
And it's probably a good thing then that we're looking at this now, so when these kinds of behaviors start, we say this isn't the proper place for this kind of complaint.
Mhm.
In a nice way.
And I'm looking at the sign-up sheet, and it really doesn't have the rules posted at all.
It's online, the
Yeah,
complaints.
yeah. Speaker selection, CVS, when open, do you need a translator? Please provide recommendation to the board.
I know I've read it on there.
I don't know, maybe somewhere else. I don't see it here.
It says when you sign up, you need to read the rules.
Mhm.
I used to sign up a lot.
Okay, yes, sir?
If the concern is about attacks on school, or even board members, or even individual folks out there, you could lift the language straight from the Davidson case that Loudon County used to use, and said that we will not allow comments that are harassing or amount to a personal attack against any identifiable individual. And you can say, including school board members or staff.
Right.
That was compliant 4 years ago,
Mhm.
and this appears to be the law now. So if that's the concern, you can directly address that. They had, the Cornell handout that Jim Mason had talked about addressed their suggestion of then direct all comments to the teacher. So you're not just restricting it, you want the people to, because otherwise, what you're trying to avoid is back and forth with individual board members.
Right.
And if you do that, you know, you're picking up, like you said, any complaints about policy decisions are being directed to the chair.
Right. Okay.
Just a thought.
That's a good idea.
So if I might,
Ms. Mason?
I would make a motion to send this forward to the board with the following changes. After Robert's Rules of Order, having newly revised 12th edition. And then after the word shouting, add the word harassment, and eliminate the verbiage about specific board members. And then again, Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised 12th edition.
Okay. I'll second that. Any further discussion?
All right, could you go over that one more time? This is the part right here. I was fine.
So I have added the newly revised 12th edition for Robert's Rules, added the word harassment after shouting, so it would be shouting, harassment, personal attacks, or other disruptive behavior will not be permitted.
Okay.
And
good.
then eliminated about specific board members, so it would be direct comments to the board chair, not to individual members directly.
Yes, it would be redundant, yeah.
And then added newly revised 12th edition.
Okay.
you
I was
think
just
we-
trying to figure out exactly.
Sometimes this visual is better.
Yeah, I'm definitely a visual
Do you
person.
think we should add a line in after that, that a board member may excuse himself, or is that just a known thing? A board member may excuse
I have
themselves?
never seen, has anybody ever done that?
Well, you think we all did at one time, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a very unusual situation.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So do we need to codify that? Or is that a general understanding? I don't think it would hurt to codify it.
Yeah.
So adding all those changes
Yeah,
and
maybe another bullet just saying, a board member may excuse themselves. How do you put that in writing?
They excuse themselves.
Just,
I'm struggling with
yeah,
it later.
if they feel,
Necessary?
if they feel necessary. Yeah, I mean, that way there, it leaves it way open, yeah, I like that. If they feel it's necessary.
If it's on the steps
Yeah,
considered.
that way there you're not saying if they feel threatened or if they feel whatever else.
Yeah. it's
do you
hard
have
to
all that, Ms.
determine.
Kadetsky? I can share it with you, it's fine.
All
So
right,
that's my motion.
and and I've already seconded it, so all in favor, please, sending this on to the board as amended,
Edited.
please signify by saying aye.
And the
Aye.
necessary parts in there, right?
Yes.
Yes.
mhm.
Okay, aye.
Aye. 23:10. Boy, let's just be quick. I guess I'm not going to make the half-hour bet. I guess. Yeah. Okay, we're carrying on to, these all came from NCSBA. I'll get the
Well, we
letter
have
down.
some of those.
Yeah, we have a whole bunch. So we're going to start right at the top. Parent involvement, 1310. And we're on, the changes are on page of this, not page 10, obviously, but page 10 and 11. So it's a long policy, pages 10, 11, 56 and 57, I heard. See? My wife says I don't listen. Come on now.
I say that about a lot of people.
All right, so this is really talking a lot about students sharing sleeping quarters with members of the other biological sex during any activity or event authorized by the school unless the member of the other biological sex is the student's immediate family member. I mean, to me, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it makes a lot of sense to me. But anyway, any discussion on it?
Yeah, where are we at now?
I make a motion, we send it on to the board,
Okay, I'll second that. 1310.
1310, and,
And it is as amended, so
yeah, Mr. Lisboy, if I
Yeah.
just can,
Miss Mason,
thank you.
You're welcome.
So under the special policy, because NCSBA sent us summer policy updates. So it says that this is actually required based on a new state law. So, yep,
And
no,
it
I know.
just- And on top of that, it just makes sense, to be honest. All right, so, I think we said it, but all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 1310 goes on to full board. Next, we have 3210, which is page 62, thank you. And I'm just going back to my computer here. And this is a whole bunch of new stuff.
Yes.
Wow, she's there. Oh, Ms. Brinson, you're over here. Would you like to speak to this, Ms. Brinson?
Yes, so there's a couple ways we could handle this. This original policy talks about parental inspection and objection of instructional materials. And one of the parts that we need to add talks about the restriction to library books. That is about students' independent reading, not necessarily instructional materials. So either one, that can be a policy in itself, but it would be a real small one, or we could change the title of this policy, like parent inspection and objection of materials, maybe, and then delineate instructional materials then versus independent reading or library books. So that way we're separating the two pieces of it.
Okay, so I will make a motion that we take 3210 as written here, with the exception we remove the word instructional materials and just leave materials, as Ms. Brinson said. And then I think we said something about,
Yes.
yeah.
So there's
The
another
part-
piece, yes.
The other part?
So under section 4, when it talks about the parent we have to have a process so parents can object to specific books. It says the request must be made in writing to the principal and identify the title of the library books that the student may not borrow. Our system that we have in Destiny allows the parent, or will allow the parent this fall, to be able to go in there and identify, like they will be able to log in and actually click next to the books they don't want their kid to read. So the parent won't necessarily have to put it in writing to the principal. They'll be able to do it online, and then in the library, a kid tries to check out one of those books, it'll come up and say, student can't check out this book. So don't necessarily need that in place for the library books.
So we can remove the section that says request made made in writing to the principal. Right?
Well,
Or, go ahead, Ms.
no,
Mason.
Ms. Justice.
Ms. Justice Mason. Go ahead, Ms. Justice.
Well, honestly, I didn't see these yesterday.
Well,
What did I miss? I went online, I did not see these.
They were here.
Yeah, they were there. They were there.
Boy, did I miss a lot.
And I think this is due to public law, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
this is new.
Is this 805?
Yes.
Okay, so all of this is 805.
Yes.
Well, not all, the
But
parts
most-
that they're adding,
Yeah.
actually, the first part they're adding to section A has to do
Okay.
with Parents' Bill of Rights and that timeline in which they can, a request has to be responded to in those different areas. And then part 4 has to do with House Bill 805.
Okay. All right, this is actually something we're all familiar with. Seeing it written down, thank you.
My
Ms. Mason?
hesitation to getting rid of the request must be made in writing. Could we just remove must and replace it with may be made in writing? Or is that not an option?
No, I mean, they could still make it in writing, but we're still going to ask them to go in and identify it, because at that point, the parent will be the only one to be able to mark the book, as far as I know, unless they've not come out with that feature yet, so until we see it, we're not sure if we would be able to identify it. It may have to be the parent actually goes in. We could help them go in and do it, but.
So I would want to change, I wouldn't want to get rid of that completely. I would just
Okay.
change must to may.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay, and I will amend my motion to make it may instead of must, because I think it is, you also may have someone that's not very good with computer, and I can write it down.
So that
and-
initial step, yeah.
Yeah.
So- Okay, so we have a motion, and I believe a second, did you second that? Yes, you
I
did?
think so.
Okay, well, you just did now.
Yes.
All right, to accept policy 3210 as written here with the changes of removing the word instructional from the title and then changing the word must to may. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'm gonna say aye.
You're going to say aye, okay. That
Yeah, I'm
passes.
just looking at it. I'm-
3210.
I missed
That
this.
passes 3-0. All right. I'm just noticing our time. We have about 25 more minutes, so we got a lot to go
We
through
can do
here.
it. We can do it.
We can do it. I'm still very disappointed in myself that we didn't get the half hour in. But anyway, it happens. All right, our next policy is 3320. We are on here's my little book, 33,
Page 65.
page 65, school trip. We're, again, talking about school trips here. We are on page 1 of 4, school trips. Students prohibited from, basically what we've already passed here. So I'll make a motion, we pass 3320 on to the full board as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify, any discussion?
Um,
It's the same, basically the same thing.
this
As
is-
before.
Yeah, didn't we already do?
We
It's-
did a
it's
similar one, yeah.
Different policy, but it's the same idea, basically, that we're prohibiting students from sharing sleeping quarters with anyone.
Right, and you already
Yeah.
brought, yeah, we already. did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor of passing 3320 on to the full board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Can I just have a lot of problems with this. What the problem is that we live in strange times.
Amen to that.
Yep,
I just need to know how you vote.
I know you do. I'll vote no.
Okay.
Only because I'm not quite sure what the definitions are involving biological sex. Here we go again with that one.
Okay. All right, so that passes 2-1. Carrying on to full board. Next, we have 3510. 3510, religious-based exemptions. Quite a lot of changes right there in the first page. Students, parents can object to specific classroom discussion, activity, or assigned reading. Policy is designed to provide students, parents, and guardians with a process for seeking a religious-based exemption for a student from a specific classroom discussion. Any discussion? I'll make, so we can carry on. I'll make a motion, we carry 3510 on to the full board. Is there a second?
Second.
Any
Okay, now we can
discussion?
have a discussion?
Yep.
Discussion.
Wow, this is pretty darn broad. What religion? Sorry. I was a history teacher, and I'm not sure how some of this stuff would come across with some parents possibly. I think kids need an education, a broad one, and understand reality and history. And this might interfere with the child's knowledge, but then that is their parents' right. How's that done? So I'll agree with it. Parents want to keep their kids unaware of history.
Okay, so we have a first,
Sadly.
first and second. All in favor of passing 3510 on to the full board as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
You got that right.
Is that a yea or a nay? Sorry. Ms. Justice?
Oh, I said yeah.
You said yea.
I
Okay.
agree with you.
Okay.
No, I said
Okay.
the parents have that right.
Okay.
That's,
Passes 3-0 then.
yep.
Extracurricular activities is 3620,
74, is that the page?
page 4, section 4,
71.
page 71.
Well, the section that was changed to 74.
And we have a third discussion of the overnight trips.
How many of these discussions are in here?
A lot of them are,
Yep.
changes,
There's
but
several of
basically, this is more about, if you have, say, the boys' track team and the girls' track team going somewhere overnight together.
Well, I know I've chaperoned enough field trips that that was always our main goal, was to keep them separate.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I hate the fact that they're even, I mean, come on now. It just seems unnecessary to a certain extent, if we can't figure this out.
Yeah.
And then we have the situation with biological sex, and we've beat that one to death too, so. I don't want kids, I want to keep them safe.
We
That's
have a
what I'm
motion
doing.
and a second to carry 3620 on to the full board. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. 3620. All right, next we have 4120. Domicile or residence requirements,
What is it changing?
So
page
it's
4.
79, and
Page
it's
79.
related to military. Military.
Remote enrollment of children of military families. And the addition is legal guardian can be on active duty and add or being separating from active military duty within 12-month period. So,
There's
and then a
lot.
whole new section for where the parent or legal guardian submits to the school system proof of residency and documentation related to disciplinary actions on students commencing attendance. So I'll make a motion, we carry 4120 on to full board as amended.
A second.
We have first and second, any discussion? Nope. All in favor, carrying 4120 on to full board, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Ms. Mason, we're gonna need a long time before you ask me next time. Just say, keep it, open, long time. All right, and she's back. Ms. Brinson, I'll turn over the control to you, 4318. Please walk us through it.
Okay, so if I would have known the School Board Association would have come out with this quickly, I wouldn't have spent the time making the changes myself. But you guys did adopt and approved 4318 at your September meeting with changes that I recommended. So the School Board Association came up with two different options. One, they edited the document that you already had in place, and then they had an optional B policy that they kind of just rewrote. I particularly am not crazy about this one because it defines the school day as beginning of the class period to the end of the day, which would be the whole day. And we had our high school students, they are using their phone at lunchtime and between class periods, so they would be in violation, and I just don't think you can monitor that at a high school.
Middle school.
Middle schools, they're
doing
up,
it.
they don't allow it there, they have their own procedures that they put in place. So I'm putting that one aside. The changes that they made to policy 4318, everything's good. Just kind of want to just warn you or have you look at one thing. Under B, where it's got authorized use during instructional time, that very last sentence where it says teachers may authorize individual students to use the devices for instructional purposes, provided that they supervise the students during such use, or in the event of the emergency. Now, or in the event during emergency, that's part of the law. It also says the teacher can allow them to use it for instructional time, and during instructional time. I don't think the law says that the teacher has to be supervising the student during such time. I guess my concern is I'm in a classroom with 30 kids, and I'm telling the kids they could bring out their phone and use it for something. There's no way a teacher is going to be able to monitor them on that phone during that time. I just don't think that's a realistic expectation. Our students in middle school and high school have laptops. They shouldn't need their phone to do their tasks because they do have laptops. But I also know that some teachers may ask them to pull them out for some reason or another reason. So that's the only sentence that I would ask you to kind of think about to see whether you want to leave that in there or remove that.
Just press a question, like Kahoot. I remember Kahoot was huge. But they can do that on a laptop,
Yep.
right? So there's really zero reason for a middle school or high school to have to use them for education.
The only reason would be a kid left their computer at home.
They might have one
There needs to be
in,
some kind of consequences if you leave your stuff at home, you know, you can still do your stuff.
there might be another computer in the classroom they could use at
Or,
that time.
but if it's broken, we provide spares in the library, so they have
yeah,
spares.
yeah.
So that would be the only piece that, I don't, unless it's like taking pictures, if maybe they're in small groups going out and doing little experiments and stuff and taking pictures, and it might be easier to do then. But again, monitoring that is just very difficult. So I hate to put something in here that I know that teachers aren't going to be able to kind of actually comply with.
Okay.
Ms. Justice?
Yeah, so what you're saying here is this is the one from the School Board Association, and then we have ours, and they're not necessarily jiving.
They do jive. The one that you guys approved does meet the requirements. They spelled it out kind of like the same format that the House Bill 805 or did. I mean, how the law did, wrong one.
Yeah, I can see similar.
As far as the definitions and stuff, they added, the top that, which I agree, that the excessive use of a wireless device, does give significant health and social risk for students. I like that. I mean, that is a true statement. We may need to add in here, no, that's in the devices. They just went a little bit step further than what I did. There's nothing wrong with what they've got in here. It says principal may establish additional limitations to the use and possession of display of the devices consistent with the policy.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that. It says the administrator may require students' parents to recover the confiscated device
Yep.
if the student repeats. There's nothing wrong with that. Our policy allowed that also. It just didn't spell that out.
So this is a little more detailed as far as, I guess you could say, expectations.
Yes, Ms. Mason?
There it is. I did notice that in here, I'm just double checking. When Ms. Brinson had brought forward the policy initially, she had included the Apple Watches, and that's not in here. So I think that's important too, because a lot of our students do have those. But also, I'm trying to see. I can't remember because I've read this policy in so many different formats. I don't see in here medical
In which one?
circumstances. Is that in the new, not the,
Yes, it's under section, the one that they did, section B, the second paragraph that's in purple. It talks
okay,
about.
it's hard to read it. Okay, there it is. It's hard to read it on the paper
Yeah.
copy that I had, so. that's
Yeah, it
fine.
looks
Okay.
very weird.
Yeah,
Like,
all right.
Where would you recommend we put the Apple Watch then?
yeah.
Well, that would be under the definitions.
That would be
What-
under
what would the-
A2.
Two, right, a wireless communication device.
And I'd call it smartwatches, not necessarily Apple Watches.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm sure Android has something,
You got that, Ms.
or an
Fidel?
Android.
Do they use a pager anymore?
All right,
Okay.
so, but I mean, I've read over this several times, and I'm hearing what you're saying, but isn't it our expectation that we monitor the students anyway? So it doesn't say that we have to see, I mean, that one section that you had a
Correct.
concern with, providing that they supervise the students during that use. We expect them to supervise the students anyway,
It's,
so
it's
I
to
don't-
the extent of that you're saying supervise. When I hear supervise, because I know we provide them that light speed, they actually see the students' computers and all that. So when I hear supervise, I'm thinking more close watching what the kids are doing necessarily. If you want to talk about supervise, it's just the kids are in a room, you're making sure that they're not doing
Right.
things they're supposed to as far as their behavior and stuff. As long as we're not assuming that word supervise means that they're seeing the kid's screen all the time, then we're
Right.
good.
Okay. All right, well, with that in mind, I think I'm going to make a motion that we pass 4318 onto the full board with the addition of smartwatches under section A2. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, like sign, passes 3-0. 18. All right, next we have 5024, and Julie's not here. I said Julie, and Julie's not here, but I think we're still it's pretty square, pretty easy. Just talking about how to deliver epinephrine.
I make a motion, we pass this on to the board.
I'll second.
Okay.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying, and again, this will be under amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. All right, 5070. A whole bunch of other public records. Section 2, page 2, section G. Current total compensation from all funding sources, including at least salary, including pay, benefits, supplements, etc. I make a motion we pass 5070 onto the full board as amended.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. We might make it. We might make it.
I told you.
All right, administering Medicine, 6125. We have two sections here, page 4 and page 6, that have changed. Page 4 is talking about delivery system we talked about in the other policy. And page 6 also talks about delivery systems.
Make a motion, we pass this on to the board.
I'll second it. All in favor of discussion? No? All in favor of moving 6125 onto the full board, please, as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
They're gonna love us.
All right.
We can do it.
We can do it. All right, 6320. Before acting as a driver pursuant to contract under General Statute 115C 253, an individual must submit a criminal history check as described in Policy 7100, recruitment and selection of personnel. That's the change. I'll make a motion, we move 6340 as amended onto the full board.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. See, and who said we needed Dr. Barnes here? Come on, we got it, we got it.
We always need Dr. Barnes here. I know
Okay.
he's listening, so.
That's true. He probably is.
He
Probably-
is.
Probably throwing things at me now. All right, 7100. Page 2, we talked about Section 3, criminal history of sex offender registry checks for contractors. Each contract executed by the board with an independent contractor or for services of independent contractors must require the contractor to check sex offender registries. Is your motion?
So moved.
I move that we send this on to the board.
Oh, okay.
She did.
Did you? Did you so
You
move
did.
that?
Yeah.
I'll second it then.
Okay.
All right, first and second, all in favor of 7100 going on to the board, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? And our final policy of the day. Dun, 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 dun.
I'm really surprised a lot
Good
of these
job,
haven't
Mr.
been done
Wildebohr.
before.
Yeah, I mean,
shocking.
some of these are
I knew you could do it.
What?
pretty straightforward.
Yeah, they
I
should
can
be.
talk really slow.
No, no,
Sir.
no, 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 no.
Sir.
Well, so what about those Yankees? All right, we'll go there.
They're fantastic, those Yankees.
Well, my Steelers did win this weekend, so that was good.
Sir.
All right. So we have, again, talking about in section G, F, under G, current total compensation from all funding sources, including at least salary, et cetera, et cetera. And then we have a whole new section here, website, publication, information, talking about the policy, the central office employee, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, associate superintendent, director, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'll make a motion, we carry it on to the full board for discussion.
Second.
First and second. Boy, I tell you, are you okay?
I figured it out. It's called a ragweed. Somebody
Oh.
told me
There you
that's
go.
what's going on.
All right, no discussion, so everyone wanting to send 7820 onto the full board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 3-0. Final action of the day. Make a motion, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, first and second. All in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. That passes 2-1.
What?
Do it at your own meetings,
You want to
too?
stay here?
I love being with you guys. Come on now.
You can stay all you want. We
Oh,
won't
my
stop.
gracious.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good job. We made it by 6 minutes.